welcome to another You've Been Schooled episode. I'm Alyssa Vargas and I'm here with.
Amberville.
Chergu.
And so today we wanted to talk about, a lot of the broad topic of social injustices in, not I shouldn't say we're not focusing today on the word. We're focusing today on sports. So I feel like honestly, I think the biggest takeaway I had when I was, researching this topic was gender. And especially, you hear a lot of stuff about gender wars, gender inequality. And I feel like a lot of that was kind of prevalent in the bring up of women's tennis. Um,
Yeah, so I'm actually a big fan of that, but I feel like tennis is one of the more balanced sports when it comes to gender. But while doing some research, it took decades to make that balance. Like for the longest time, women players were winning titles but getting paid way less than men, like for doing the same job. And it wasn't just a small difference. Like sometimes it was ridiculous.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely, you know, when I think of tennis, I've always thought it was pretty equal. And I was pretty ignorant to not look into the past of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one thing I will say is that whenever I think of certain sports, like when I think of football, I think unfortunately masculine. When I think of soccer, I think more masculine. But when it came to tennis, I was always pretty equal
Yeah.
on it. And so I never really focused on the kind of nasty history it has. Not even like in history, I don't mean like a couple decades ago. I mean like literally like a couple years ago,
Yeah.
not even hitting a decade.
Oh my god, I cannot believe it because I wasn't familiar with tennis before, but after I heard about what you guys said, I feel like it reveals the incomplete nature of equality. I feel really sad about it.
Yeah. What's it called? You said you're more familiar with tennis, huh? What would you say like a big kind of Kickstarter was for that equality?
So the starter of the women tennis is actually Billie Jean King, and she had a big game with Bobby Riggs. Like that guy was shouting, "Women belongs to the kitchen." And although I'm 55, I can still beat these players because they're women.
Yeah, and I think that's just it's so it's sad and it's distasteful, and I've always like kind of seen this more so in like a lot of sports where it wasn't until like a big revolutionist came in as a woman, I should say, came in and I had to become some big role model, some big activist, some big like I say revolutionist in order to gain attention and traction towards women's sports. And I feel like I think that's so sad. And although I think it's so important to have activists and all that stuff, I feel like, for lack of better words, men simply just play. And just by doing good, they get attention. You've seen this everywhere, especially in football, especially in, all those more rougher sports. So I think it's really sad to see us have to fight, and this isn't just sports, this is in general, to see women have to fight significantly harder
Yeah, they need
to
to
get
make
attention.
big change.
Yeah.
My emotion honestly is kind of elaborate because I'm also a woman, so I really want to see this gender inequality problem can be solving very soon.
Mm-hmm. So I feel like a big person, in tennis that I've always seen and I'm more familiar with is Serena Williams. Um, she's she was she is such a strong woman, and I've talked with many journalist teachers, and they all say that they personally believe Serena Williams is the best athlete.
Yeah, and one thing I really remember about her is she had a black bodysuit at the French Open,
Mm-hmm.
and people call that catsuit, and most for health reasons after giving birth. And like people all say, is was not respectful to the sports. Like since like when is a medical outfit disrespectful, and they just couldn't handle women, especially a black woman being strong and different, and came back um, after giving birth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel this stereotype is like an invisible wall, allowing the pain expression of black women to be easily overlooked and housewarming to be casually disregarded.
And I feel like another big thing was how a big thing was not only that situation, but also how she was treated at um I'm blanking on the name of the tournament that her and her sister attended.
Mm-hmm.
Indian Wells, the tournament. Where she was berated and kind of had her identity just talked down on, and it was just a lot of slurs were said, and it was just a disgusting kind of situation to think about how she may have felt in that situation. And I feel like just thinking about that kind of like takes me to a place where it's like she's such a significant person in tennis, and she's still getting all of this racist stuff, all these sexist remarks, and it's sad that although we think that it's equal, it's still not seen as equal to a good portion of the audience, and they don't want it that way, so, and I feel like that situation is also prevalent to what you mentioned earlier with
The Billy one.
yes, sorry.
Yeah. So after that game, I can say she started the women tennis and start the Women Tennis Association and got a lot of sponsors to support women tennis. So that is how people start the women tennis, and is a big shift for most people to nowadays more popular women tennis player. Yeah, so the big shift on that.
Yeah, and I feel like that's honestly a good segue to talk about a lot of colored issues and disparities. I shouldn't even say like in the late 1900s, because it's still pretty prevalent today. So Serena Williams was obviously someone who faced a lot of that. Another one, talking about what we started off. Bill Russell was also a huge one.
Yeah, it's about a film, and I actually felt kind of weird during the championship part of that film, because we see all the banners going up, people cheering up, but it felt really empty because Russell wasn't really being celebrated. Just his performance, like fans love what he give to the team, but not who he was.
Yeah, I like that a lot. You worded that good.
Thank you. And what is made it even more clear is how the team treated the white players, the Kuzi. Yeah, like he was welcome and really respected by others, and people loved him. Like Russell was winning just as much or even more, but
well, I feel like it wasn't necessarily the players that were more welcoming to him. I feel like it was mainly just the audience. I feel like the players were very. It's honestly like it's kind of sad to say, but it shocked me a little bit how open-minded those players were when it came to Russell joining the team.
Yeah, because he's the first black guy.
Yeah, so I feel like it was more so on the audience that kind of was like more closed-minded, more so like, oh, I care about my image, my I was gonna say minorities, not minorities, my white image, and so I feel like especially when that part in the show where it was talking about how they honored him in a day because of all his wins, how much how significant he was to the team. But when he became vocal, actually he didn't even become vocal when rumors came out saying that he wanted to move more so to a central area. They made a whole petition to say no, like we don't want you near us.
Yeah, me too. And my emotion actually is kind of elaborate because even with his such brilliant achievements, he still couldn't escape the shadow of racial discrimination. When playing away games, he was often refused to stay in hotels and had to stay in small hotels in black communities. Restaurants would refuse to serve him, and even some people left racial discrimination slogans at his doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but after all about that, he actually made some changes. Like he became the
Yeah,
first black head coach
100%.
in the NBA. So that is talk about what they talk about in the second episode. And he was still playing at time. Like it's well. Like imagine trying to lead the team more on the court and also off the court. So while being the only black guy, uh, was that kind of power. So it's a big deal. Like it was not just about him getting the job. Is was job. It's about what it mean like a black man making decision, calling the shoot,
Yeah.
lead the team. So that just wasn't a thing back then, but he made it happen.
Yes, and I feel like that is it's huge. I honestly loved his story. And then I kind of wanted to like move on to another topic. The Gold Cup final versus USA and Mexico. Honestly, okay, so I'm a huge soccer fan. I've always been growing up. I feel like it's just I feel like it's that sport is honestly such a huge part of my culture, my Hispanic culture, and all that other stuff. And so when I found out, I was following the whole bracket series, and when I found out that in the end it was gonna be USA and Mexico, I was kind of excited. It's been a rivalry since the early '90s. I think I want to say '93. I might be wrong on that, but I'm 99% sure it was '93. So I was really excited, and then when I went on social media, I saw a lot of posts kind of saying that this whoever wins will receive the golf.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I don't know if you saw.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I'm trying very hard not to be vulgar here, but there's the president renamed it Gulf of America. Gulf of America, and obviously, jeez. And so I saw a lot of posts saying whoever wins it will receive it, and so it was kind of surprising to me that like I didn't see a lot of commentators, talking about that, talking about the more political part or view of the game. And so I mainly just saw it on social media, like a couple 100,000, I shouldn't say a couple 100,000, but a big post receiving like a thousand, over 1,000, 100,000, sorry. I keep stumbling over my words. 100,000 likes, comments, all that stuff. And they were all saying, yes, whoever wins gets it. And so when Mexico, won, everyone was saying, I saw more people taking it as a heavy symbolic win. And I really loved that.
Yeah, I saw this event before as well. And I know on social media the reactions were explosive. Mexican fans are cheerful, celebrating what they perceive as a significant victory. I'm very happy about it.
Yeah. And I'm honestly rambling now, but it may be kind of silly to say that like, oh, a big soccer win, won back our golf. But it's like in my culture, you kind of, it's huge, like in the World Cup when it was hosted in Brazil, I want to say, they would shut down neighborhoods just to not even to watch the game in person, but to watch it on a street on TV, just a huge crowd of people watching a TV on the street to see how their teams would come out. So I feel like it was kind of amazing to see, and I'm kind of a little bit sad that not a lot of commentators have been talking about it, you know. But yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, sports has this way of turning into something more like it's a ball and a goal, but underneath that is about power, identity, and more about culture, social justice. So it's a broad topic to say about, but it's just something that we need to address nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is all for today's Soup in School, and I'm here with
Alyssa Vargas.
Sure, cool.
Memberdo.